Trains full of refugees continue to arrive here at Vienna's western train station. This one originated in Belgrade in Serbia, then went via Budapest in Hungary, and has now arrived here in Vienna. And as you can see, it's absolutely packed with people. We move in closer, we can see there's a lot of families with small children. Now, also, we can see that immediately there's volunteers who come in here and they help the folks off the train, and they help them to find the next place where they have to go. Now, here in particular, what they're trying to do is they're trying to guide the refugees to the next train that they need to take to Munich in Germany. First of all, they get asked where they want to go. The majority of them will want to go to Germany, and then they have to go across the train station here to catch the right train to go on to Germany. It's a very, very efficient process, and it certainly also is very demanding of the many volunteers who are here. Many of them, by the way, speak Arabic, and that's something that's very important to make sure that this process works. One of the things that we can also see here is how big this refugee crisis is, how many refugees keep coming. This is the 10th or 11th train that we've seen, which is absolutely packed, coming in just on this single day. So certainly European leaders are saying that this is a massive crisis that they're dealing with, and that they are going to need all European countries to pitch in if they want to come to terms with it. For Pleiken, CNN, Vienna, Austria.
Austria has seen its fair share of problems when it comes to illegal migrants into the country. This is because they know there is no going back to where they came from. Many of these refugees are fleeing from countries torn by strife and suffering. A country that has failed to protect its population, many of which have been displaced to foreign lands like Austria. The immigration crisis Austria faced was such a big problem that it almost brought the country to its knees, as it struggled to get the mass population of illegal migrants down to meager numbers, if they even came at all. But how did Austria manage to pull off this miracle? How did they manage to handle the immigration crisis in a way that left everyone lost for words?
And for more on this, I'm joined on set by Dana Alba. She is a journalist for Info Migrants, or Info Migrants. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So what is behind this increasing number of asylum seekers in Austria?
Yes, so as a start, just to understand that these asylum seekers that we have just seen, they arrived to Austria through the Western Balkan route, which means they have crossed many countries before arriving to Austria, like Romania or like North Macedonia. We have seen dozens of asylum seekers. They have been. They told us that they have been like for weeks, maybe even for months on this road, trying to cross the border from Serbia to Hungary. And then from Hungary, they head up north and they pass by Austria, because their final destination is not really Austria, as we have seen. They want to head up north even more towards Germany, for example, or Sweden. Authorities have detected around 100,000 irregular entries at the external border of the European Union. This doesn't mean that there are 100,000 people who crossed the border, but this is like the number of attempts. Of course, there are many reasons behind this increase of number on this route. We are seeing, for example, more control on the central Mediterranean and as well for the Aegean Sea, where people try to cross from Turkey to Greek islands.
Well, so how are European authorities dealing with all these newcomers?
Of course, so the main focus for Europe at the moment is to stop the migration flow and to set more control on the border, on border management, in order just to put more border guards on the Western Balkan route and on the border as well. With such control on the border, we are seeing more alerts and alarms from NGOs about illegal pushbacks by the European authorities. There is much more violence at the border as well, for example, in between Serbia and Hungary as well. And the United Nations agency, migration agency, told us in a previous interview the solution for such a humanitarian crisis can never be by closing the border in such a way. And there is as well like a lot of high-level meetings, European meetings that are being held recently. The Austrian Interior Minister, for example, has suggested to adopt asylum procedures in third countries. The Hungarian Prime Minister as well is aiming to send a message to migrants in order to tell them that it's impossible to cross the border to go through the Western Balkan route.
What are the main nationalities of migrants on this route? I mean, who are they?
Exactly. According to what we have seen on the border, there are two, and the reports from NGOs as well, there are two main nationalities over there on the Balkan route. There is a lot of Afghan people and Syrians. There are as well other people from Tunisia, Egypt, Burundi as well.
It's crazy that asylum seekers pass several countries just to get to Austria, which may not be their last destination as they seek to use the country as a gateway, a portal to go into countries like Germany, and some even somehow wind up in England, which has suffered under the sheer weight of migrants that come to the country each day. The EU obviously wants little to do with sheltering asylum seekers, even if they are the loudest to preach acceptance of refugees. Also, reception centres should be made in the countries these migrants have to cross to get to the EU to take the strain off the other countries. Thousands of people are displaced and looking for a place to call home. But Austria has said it doesn't really want to be that country that fills its jurisdiction with more people than it can cater for. The harsh truth is that refugees take a toll on the resources a country should use on its citizens, and asking taxpayers to pay for the welfare of illegal migrants doesn't sit well with a lot of the population.
Freilassing sits on the German side of the Austrian border. Population 17,000. Nothing much ever happens. Or at least it didn't until the Great Exodus of 2015, when 2,000 people a day were crossing the bridge, which is the border. Now that bridge is quiet. An average of 2 migrants a day make the crossing, but the Austrians would like to make it 0. The whole Austrian plan calls for the Schengen free movement zone inside Europe to be maintained by forcing people who want to claim asylum to do it before they enter the European Union. The logic of that says that people might have to ask a country they're trying to escape from to help them become a refugee. The Austrians released a briefing document in which they said that some single male migrants were characterised by anti-freedom or backward-looking religious attitudes. The whole thing is straight out of the playbook of the populist far right. That also plays very well in small towns like Freilassing.
In the Türkei or in Libyen,
it would be wise if countries like Libya and Turkey, where they are received first, had reception centres. It's smarter to help those countries register them.
None of which is to say that this place is unfriendly. Bashir, who fled Somalia 3 years ago, is being looked after by locals. His journey took him through Libya. Could he really have asked for asylum in Germany while he was a 16-year-old in North Africa?
It would be really dangerous. Once you are out of your country, nobody does anything for you, and you can't go back. It's just a whole lot of problems and trouble.
As it stands, the migrant reception centre in Freilassing has nothing to do because there are no migrants. While over the border, Austria has gravitated entirely to the point of view of governments like those in Hungary and Italy, which despise any migration. With populist parties on the march before European elections next year, the Austrian presidency seems to be validating the most hardline views. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera, Freilassing.
The 2015 crisis was an eye-opener for the Austrian government. Now, there's a significant difference between that fell day in 2015 and the present day. For one, there is no refugee in sight. It is reported that fewer than 5 migrants come to Austria seeking asylum. This can be credited to the far-right policy implemented by the Austrian authorities that will have applicants for permission from their countries, which will rarely ever come because these migrants usually flee from a place that has experienced a severe breakdown of law and order, meaning the government is probably in no position to issue asylum to its citizens. That is, assuming there is even a functional government in place to give asylum in the first place. This strict policy has proved effective in drastically dropping the number of migrants who want to settle in Austria. And this includes migrants who are seeking to use the country as a gateway to the EU. The Austrians were not playing with this strict policy.
Austria's right-wing coalition government is cracking down on benefits paid to foreigners in a bid to deter asylum seekers. The government plans to cap refugees' main benefit payment at €563 a month. rising to the €863 available to Austrian citizens if they pass a language test. The fundamental rule we'll introduce is that German will become the key to accessing the full minimum benefit. That means that whoever has insufficient language skills will not be able to claim the full minimum benefit. Migrants will also be barred from claiming such benefits for 5 years, a move that goes against EU rules that all member state citizens be treated equally. The Austrian People's Party won last year's parliamentary election with a hard line on immigration, pledging not to allow a repeat of the 2015 migration crisis.
Another way Austria crushed the influx of migrants into their country is by using deterrent tactics. The government has cracked down on welfare payments to migrants, especially those who cannot prove they are proficient in the country's language. Of course, the Austrian government made this proclamation, knowing that less than 5% of these migrants can speak the language with any type of proficiency. This has put many illegal and unregistered migrants in a more compromising situation, just when they probably thought their luck couldn't get any worse. The living conditions of these migrants are quite inhumane, but the migrants hardly expect the government to go above and beyond for them. So you can understand why they have set a policy that will see way more illegal aliens ejected from the country.